Hey, good morning, Ranger Bell. How are you?
Today.
We're good.
Good. I see we got our reservation.
Yes.
Okay, this is gonna be good through tomorrow for you.
Okay.
And did you folks have an annual national park? Oh,
Yes.
right there. You got all the right things. All right, I'm gonna put this here on your window for you.
Sounds good.
Have a beautiful day, folks.
Thank
Thank you very much.
So the meadows in Yosemite are a really important part of the park because they hold about 90% of all of our plant life. Just looking out into Leidig Meadow here, you can see that there's quite a diversity of plants out there. The reason meadows can hold that many plants is because meadow soil is kind of like a sponge. It's really delicate and it holds a lot of moisture. So it can hold a wide variety of plants. The problem with that, though, is that wildlife love meadows, but so do humans. And when humans go out there in our hiking boots and our groups of people, we very quickly dry out that delicate soil. And it makes it really hard for those plants to grow back once we've carved paths into those meadows. So we do encourage people to stay out of the meadows. In some of our meadows, we have put in boardwalks so that we can go out there and enjoy them, but the water and the soil can still move underneath the boardwalk. That waterfall you're looking at, although it's just a little trickle right now, is Bridal Veil Falls. Bridal Veil is about 600 feet tall. So it's about 1/4 the size of Yosemite Falls. We're going to stop in front of that later on, and you'll definitely be getting way better pictures than you can get right now. But I just want to point it out while we're here. Yeah, you'll notice there's still a little water coming off of that one, which is exciting. So Bridal Veil is different than Yosemite Falls in that way because Yosemite Falls is fed 100% by snowmelt. So when we run out of snow, there's no more waterfall. So this bridge was heavily damaged. Sections of Highway 140 were destroyed, and the valley had to close for 3 months to do repairs, which cost $178 million. It was really destructive. And I know some people who were working here that day, and they've told me that it was just a mind-blowing experience. So we had new waterfalls popping off almost every wall in the valley, just pouring in. Yosemite Falls was shooting out about 300 feet, and like fully uprooted logs were coming off of it, boulders, chunks of ice just flying off. And I mean, I'm a little bit silly, so I like to imagine that that's still the case. Like the water level is higher than the level of the road right now, You got new waterfalls everywhere. You got some crazy waterfalls. And then I like to imagine we're all on a barge tour. It'd be pretty sweet, right? Kind of dangerous. But I gotta say, I'm kind of sick of this drought situation. Because we're like in the opposite of that day I like to imagine. The water level is so low. This year we got about 40% of our average snowfall, which isn't great. I've seen worse, but I've seen much, much, much better. And so things are really dry around here. The waterfalls dry up faster, the meadows are drier than they should be, the river level is super low. So climate change is definitely affecting us here in Yosemite. And one way in particular is like really sad to me is that historically we've had 2 glaciers left in Yosemite, the Lyle and the McClure Glacier. In the last decade, one of those has been downgraded. It's no longer technically considered a glacier, so it is now considered a snowfield. The other one will be gone in a couple years as well. So something I've been trying to plan is like going on a backpacking trip out to the last glacier of Yosemite. You know, because if you're like one of the last people to see the last glacier of Yosemite, it's kind of a cool thing, right? It's really depressing too, but so if you need any backpacking ideas, you can have that one for free. Like 4 days round trip backpacking experience. Have many of you been up to Tunnel View before? No? You have? Okay. Oh, you really want to go? That's the next stop, folks. So it is quite beautiful up there, and in just a moment we'll be making a right turn up there to head up to Tunnel View. View. So if you guys wanted a better photo of the Three Brothers Rock Formation, that's going to be on the left side of the bus. Alright, so again, black oaks, and those are really important down here, and oak trees all over California because they provide acorns. And that's a big source of food for the wildlife these days. Alright, so I went over the 3 most popular. We've also got like cottonwood, maple, we have live oak, we have other types of pines, we've got fir trees, we have tons of trees. Does anyone think we have too many trees? No, nobody, no takers. Alright, well I think we have too many trees. I will tell you why. So it involves more pioneer mistakes, so get ready. So before the pioneers got here, lightning would strike, there'd be a forest fire, and because it happened somewhat regularly, there wasn't a bunch of fuel on the ground, so it wasn't a super intense fire. It would just clean up all the brush, get rid of the baby trees that shoot up like weeds around here, and put nutrients back in the soil. And when the Awanichi were here, if a section wasn't getting a fire and it was starting to get like really overgrown, they would do a prescribed fire. So they would start a fire in there and manage the forest themselves. So at this point in time, before the pioneers, we had 30 trees per acre. Today we have something like 500 trees per acre. So where we would have had 30 healthy trees per acre, we now have 500 very weak trees because they're all competing for the same resources. And then, because we're in California, you gotta factor the drought into that, so it makes them even weaker. Does anyone know what animal loves super weak trees?
The beetle.
Bark beetles. Yep. So they go in there and finish them off. So you probably saw at Tunnel View, you're looking out over this forest, and like maybe 1/5 of the forest is dead. That's not great. So that's because of that situation. So when we get fires now, lightning strikes, there's so much fuel on the ground, and like not just a bunch of ferns and dead trees and stuff like that, but you got to consider that those trees that are still standing upright, like the dead ones for sure, super dry. Fire travels now vertically in the forest and then spreads that way. But also even the trees that are still alive are super, super dry because they're not getting enough resources. So overcrowding has really been an issue here in California and across the country, just because we don't know how to manage our forests. And we're starting to figure it out again. Learn from nature itself, learn from the indigenous people that lived here and managed the forests. So, you see those giant piles of wood around. We do prescribed burns in the park now. So last year, I mean, we've been doing it for decades now, but we're really ramping up lately. Last year we had a prescribed burn in this area, and it really cleaned it up. And when I drove back in this summer for the first time, as I was coming back to start my season, it was covered with wildflowers that I've never seen before in this area. So there's an immediate effect on the forest floor, which is pretty great to see. So we've got a lot of those wood piles. When we are in the fall and we get a good rain, those will get lit and we'll do prescribed burns all over the valley and in other parts of the park as well. And I'm sure you heard about some of the really dangerous fires we had earlier this summer, the Washburn and the Oak Fire. The Washburn fire almost took out the Mariposa Grove, which would have been really sad. That's our big grove here. It's got a lot of history, and it's got the trees, massive trees. So the reason why those trees did not go up was because we've been doing prescribed burns down there, and there wasn't any fuel on the ground. So the grove was saved. Just outside the grove, everything's devastated. And then the Oak Fire happened outside the park. And so it was a really dangerous fire. It went up really quickly, a lot of dead trees. And lots of people lost their homes in that fire, including my aunt and uncle. They're in their 80s, house gone. So it's really devastating. Hopefully, we can all learn from this and allow fire, don't just put it out every time. All right, so we get to see that giant stain that is sometimes Yosemite Falls. Still pretty impressive, right? So I'm going to talk about trees a little bit more, but before I do, I just want to point out to everybody that when we get down at the end of this meadowy area, there's a building up there on the right. That is the chapel. It's the oldest building in Yosemite Valley. It's built in 1879. That's really all I'm going to say about it, just letting you know that's what you're looking at on the right. But I do want to go over how to tell you the difference between incense cedars and giant sequoias, because they do look alike. So incense cedars, when you look at the leaves, they're organized into flat, fan-like sections. So if you get these little ones on the ground, little cedars, you can see that the leaves are really flat. Got a bunch of them right here. See those flat sections of leaves? Okay. Giant sequoias do not have flat sections. Their branch just looks kind of like a bushy tail. It's just chaos, almost like a network of veins or something. It's just a very bushy bunch of leaves. So if you touch a giant sequoia, they're squishy. Incense cedars are very hard. And if you want to try that out, you can go over to the Pioneer Cemetery, where we do have a cluster of 5 giant sequoias that were planted by Galen Clark's grave. You can touch those, you'll see what I mean. Because bears here are really lazy and they're really hungry, so they are problematic for us, mostly because we don't put our food away properly. Some people like to keep food in the car, but that's a bad plan here. Bears can smell an unopened can of tuna from over a mile away. So anything you have in your car, they are aware of. And what that means a mile away is if we had a bear sitting right here on the bus with us, and if I put a can of tuna up on the top of Half Dome, the bear could smell the tuna. How is that possible, you might ask? Those cans are airtight. I have no idea. But we've tracked a bear with GPS and know that they can do that. So it is mind-blowing to imagine having a sense of smell that strong. They're not stupid. Like they could steal someone's large pizza and then go take a nap for 5 hours. So the bears here are really smart. In fact, if you have food in your car, their favorite way to access that food is if you leave your doors unlocked. They do know how to open car door handles, and they know how to turn doorknobs and all that good stuff. They got that all figured out. So we worked really hard on Cook's Meadow, like for decades, to restore it back to its former glory, because this was the meadow where cows used to graze. But milkweed, if you're not aware, is like what monarchs need to survive, monarch butterflies. And I read this article, it was like over a month ago now, but it says since 1986, monarch butterfly population has decreased by 99.9%. Which is really sad. So luckily you can still see them here in Yosemite Valley in Cook's Meadow. This one does have a nice 1 mile long boardwalk that goes through it. And I once was giving a butterfly talk out there on that boardwalk. And I'm gesturing as I do. And a butterfly landed on my hand in the middle of a butterfly talk. I was like, this is amazing. And like the people on my walk were like joking, like, oh, you must have summoned them, or you've got like sugar on your hand. Definitely didn't. It was just a magical moment. But what was better is that like new people started joining our walk because I was standing there like Snow White, you know. And I just like felt like Queen of Yosemite out there. And lots of magical stuff happens in this meadow. It might not involve butterflies. Like once I saw a baby coyote chase a full-grown bear into a tree. Never seen that before. Never thought I would ever see that. Because why would a full-grown bear run from a baby coyote? There he is. It's like the reaction of when I see a spider in the shower. It's like, ah! And like running up the tree. Bizarre. Several office romances have started out in Cook's Meadow. So if you want a magical moment, highest probability is Cook's Meadow. As far as I'm concerned.